Welcome to Kennel Connection 6.0. This video is meant as an overview to demonstrate the full functionality of the Kennel Connection software. As you can see on the main screen, we have Kennel Connection 6.0. At the very top here, we have what is called the Quick Access bar. This bar contains commonly used icons for easy access. We have our new customer icon, our search button, little binoculars, our find phone number to search specifically via phone numbers, our create invoice money bag icon, the time clock icon for punching in and out for employees. Then we have our schedule icons for the individual modules that you can purchase with Kennel Connection: boarding, grooming, daycare, pet sitting, training, and our new special services module, which is a sort of catch-all individual module that you can use to create a schedule for services that kind of fall in between the gaps of the other modules. We then have a quick check-in and checkout icon and the exit button. Beneath the quick access bar, you will find our ribbon. This is similar to the kind of ribbon you see in Microsoft Word, for example. Each tab brings us to a different series of icons within the ribbon. The ribbon can be removed by right-clicking in the ribbon toolbar and selecting Minimize the ribbon. When the ribbon is minimized, it will come back out when clicking on the tabs. And we can bring the ribbon back by doing the same thing. Beneath the ribbon, on the left-hand side, you'll see the client view. This is where clients and pets will appear within the system. You can sort them by last name, pet name, or by phone number. The client view can also be closed by clicking the View button, the View tab at the top, selecting Client Explorer, and that will close it. And we can open the Client Explorer again by clicking that, like so. Within the ribbon, we have the File tab. Under the File tab, we have some of the same icons you have in the Quick Access bar. Our new customers, our open customer, our search, find phone, and delete buttons. Those are all in the customer section. These all have to do with accessing, creating, or removing customers from your Kennel Connection program. In the action section, we have save, close, and close all. In the print section, we have print invoices, and we can also set up our printer. Then in the setup section, we have the main setup areas. If using login IDs and passwords, we can modify password. We have our discount and loyalty setup, the inventory section, our list section, system options, business info, and employee section. And we also have an exit button here as well. I'll be going over the other tabs as we progress through the program, as we go through this overview. But one thing I want to point out here, as we're on the File tab, is the creation of customers and pets within the system. As I mentioned before, we have the new customer button here and up here. Click either of those to bring up a new customer card. As you can see, this customer card is blank. The minimum requirements for a customer is a first name and last name. Once we have that minimum amount of information, we can hit save. For pets, the same thing. Click Add Pet under the Pets tab. Enter a pet name. And we can save both of those. Under a customer card, we're going to see a number of tabs here. Customer info for basic information, contact information, barcodes, any kind of fax IDs, emergency contact information. We have little icons you can put next to names. Under the Pets tab, we have access to all the pets owned by this customer. The Info tab, there's a lot of room for information here. This information is gone into in further detail in our training video on creating and managing customers and pets in Kennel Connection. For just brief overview, I'm just going to mention that we have a lot of general information here. We have general note areas and more detailed note areas. We can keep track of travel information, pet handlers, any documents you want to save into the system to bring up. You can save them into the Docs folder in Kennel Connection and then bring them up here. And we can save our signatures for signature pads. Under the Financial tab on a customer's account, we're going to have Invoices and Receipts all accessible. We have discounts and we have credit card information. We can store contract information for specific customers. If you have the pet sitting module, you'll see the pet sitting tab. And then we have a packages tab to sell packages to clients in the system. On the pet cards, we have the similar setup here. Basic information about the pet. Under the Notes tab, we have main notes, additional notes, report cards that can be created and maintained and sent to the customer, packages to sell on the pet card, and we can also save documents on the pets card under the Notes tab. We then have the Vaccination tab. This is where all vaccination information is saved. Default required vaccinations will appear automatically when you create a new pet card, such as this one. Information is entered and stored here. Then you'll see we have a tab for each module in the system. So depending on which modules you have in Kennel Connection, you will see the tabs for those modules: boarding, grooming, training, daycare, pet sitting, special services. And then we have a tab for basic services for pets: feeding, medication, and exercises. Once your pets and customers are entered into the client view, they can be accessed from here. If you click anywhere within the client view and then type the first 2 or 3 letters of the last name, since we're sorting by last name here, the highlighted name will jump to the name that you're typing. So if I type in WIL, it's going to jump down to the Wilson area. If I type in BAT, we're back up to Bates. Next in the setup process, we have the setup section under File. And here we have basic sections that are used to enter the information you'll need to run the program. For new customers just starting up their database, we recommend starting at the Employee section and working your way back. We have training videos specifically on the Employee section, on Business Info, System Options and Lists, and on the Inventory section, and on the Discount section. These training videos go into great detail regarding these areas, on how to set things up and how to put specific prices in there. For this demonstration, I'm just going to go over briefly where the information appears and where you'll want to go to set it up. Going into the Employee section, as you can see, we have our employees entered into the system with login IDs and passwords, last name and first name, any contact information, and you can choose which services in the system those employees offer. When you have login IDs and passwords set up in Kennel Connection, you can set up access rights to control what parts of the program your employees can access. Employee time cards are tracked here. Employees punch in and out using the time clock icon. And you can also modify or add your own punches here as well. Payroll Info is saved under the Payroll Info tab, including what kind of pay method they receive, specifically commissions if they receive commissions. You can keep track of their hire and termination dates. If you're keeping track of maximum groom settings for individual groomers, they'll be entered here. And then under the Commissions tab is where we can set up individual commissions or basic commissions for the employees. The Schedule tab is where you'll set up your schedule for the employee. And then there's a general notes section too. From there, you want to go to your business info section. This is where all your basic business information will be entered. including your basic business contact information. You'll notice your business name will be grayed out. This is a business name that is set up with Blue Crystal software when you purchase the Kennel Connection program. Once that name is entered with us, that is registered as a license to the program. In order to have this name changed, you need to contact the sales department and find out further information regarding license changes. Our contact information here, including phone number and email. If you're going to use Kennel Connection to send emails, you want to make sure that this email address is the same email address that you'll be using to send emails through Kennel Connection. Country and tax information here as well. Operating hours can be entered here, and if checking the Enforce Operating Hours box, Kennel Connection will not allow you to schedule anything on a schedule outside of these operating hours. If you're going to use Kennel Connection to send emails, you'll have to set up your outgoing server here under the email tab. Once this is set up, and you can also add additional courtesy copies for emails to be sent to other people if you have multiple managers you want to be copied on emails. Once this is set up, you'll be able to go into each individual module's tab and set email defaults, including sending automatic confirmations, thank you emails, displaying, and what you want to display on your confirmation emails. So we have these for all the modules in the system. And then we have settings for special emails, such as your birthday emails, vaccination expiration emails, and thank you emails. There's a bank account section. If you don't set up bank accounts in Kennel Connection, you'll leave this one as blank. Otherwise, you can set up separate bank accounts here if you want to track which bank accounts receipts will be going into. And depending on additional modules you purchase with Kennel Connection, you might find tabs here for the smartphone app, setting up credit cards if you're going to process credit cards through Kennel Connection, our QuickBooks Direct Link, online reservation, and other items such as that. All those will be set up under the business information section. Then you want to go to your system options section. Now again, there's a lot of information in the system options section that's gone over in detail in our training video on business info, system options, and lists. So I just want to give the basic overview. We have a global tab and a local tab on either end when we open up system options. The global tab is settings that will affect every computer in the network if you are networking Kennel Connection among multiple computers. If you're doing so, the local tab will only create settings specifically for the computer you're currently on. Most of the settings in here you'll find are for warnings to appear when using the program for pets or customers, and setting up peripheral hardware such as cash drawers, receipt printers, barcode scanners. The global tab is a lot of your basic settings regarding aspects of the program. There's, again, a lot of information in here that's gone over in detail in the other training video. A lot of default options here. And then we also have default options for the individual modules: boarding, grooming, daycare, training, pet sitting, special services. For boarding specifically, you'll have an additional tab of board settings where you can set up discounts or charges for board visits based on when the pets are checked in or checked out. Under grooming, you're going to have a special groom card format. Daycare will have additional settings regarding daycare packages. Training and pet sitting and special services are a little less involved. And then we have an Invoices tab where you'll set up all your basic information for your invoices, what's going to be entered in here, what's tracked, late payments, what things will be called on your invoices. This basically controls how your invoices are created and how they will appear to your customer. Next, we have the list section. This is where most of the information that you'll access in drop-down menus in Kennel Connection, or lists of items that will be accessed automatically in the system, are entered. Just to give a brief overview, once again, this has gone into more detail in our Business Info, System Options, and Lists training video. We have our breeds, colors, payment methods, daycare rooms, and this can be changed to daycare types by altering the setting in the System Options section. Our services for exercises, feeding, and medication, they can be preset here. We have a space here for 5 notices to be added to emails that you can send from the system, such as boarding reminders, vaccination reminders, that kind of thing. You can set up the 5 pre-made messages here and select them when accessing them in the report section. If you're using runs and run sizes, you'll set them up here. We recommend setting run sizes first. And here you can see we can set our multi-pet rates for those as well. And then once you set your run sizes, you'll create your runs and attach each run to a run size. You also notice that down here we have the option to choose which modules runs are used for. In Kennel Connection 5, runs were only available for boarding. Now we've expanded it so you can add runs to daycare, grooming, or training. And you also have the option whether to leave the run for a specific module by itself, or if you want to combine them between modules. We have sources, keeping track of referrals, other services that will be added into the system, things that go outside of the normal setup realm, basic grooming items. Those can be set up here. We have special rates based on the day of the week or peak or holiday seasons that's set up in the calendar view. We have training classes are set up here. Vaccinations are entered in here, including their expiration range and whether they are required or feline. List of veterinarians. Weight classes can be set if you're going to be charging for grooms based on weight. Zip codes. Pet types. Cat and dog are hardwired in the system. They must remain, but you can get rid of bird, ferret, and snake, and you can add any other additional pet types you want. If you have the pet sitting module, you'll have pet sitting tapes. We have daycare package set up, and then we also have boarding packages, pet sitting packages, grooming packages, and we have a special other packages section that you can set up for any other inventory item in the system. We currently do not have a package system for training. That is something that's currently in the works. So that's the one module you won't be able to set up any packages for. Then we have our special services set up. If you're using the special services module, you'll create your special services here to be added to that schedule. And over here we have self-service providers. If you want to send text messages to customers from the customer card, you can do so. All you need is their cell phone number and their self-service provider, basically the provider's name and their server information. We have a basic list here. If your customer has a server service provider that we do not have listed here, you'll have to get the information from your customer directly. Next, we have the inventory section. Inventory can be entered in the system. Inventory being services, products, anything that's going to be entered onto an invoice will be entered here. This is where the billing process occurs in Kennel Connection. So here we set up our code. You can attach vendors, categories. You can track your prices in Kennel Connection. We can put up a retail price. We can put the cost in. If you want to compare your profit margin for items sold, if you're selling products, you can have an on-hand amount to keep track of how many of that item you have sold and how many you currently have in stock. Item descriptions, commission setup, and QuickBooks Direct Link setup if you want to keep track of individual inventory items in specific accounts in QuickBooks. Our inventory setup is here. You can also set up your individual vendors and categories to track individual items. Every item you enter into inventory can be connected to a specific category. This is most useful when running sales reports in the system. We also have a number of reports up here. You can create barcode sheets for items that you've created barcodes for, inventory and service lists, low reports to get an idea of what you need to reorder, and a full vendor list. And we also have the option here under activities to create purchase orders and receive inventory if you want to track it through Kennel Connection. We now have the added option to email purchase orders directly to vendors if you have their email information. Keep in mind, if you're thinking of getting the QuickBooks Direct Link module, the one thing that does not transfer from Kennel Connection to QuickBooks our purchase orders. Then after those basic setup areas, we have the discount and loyalty setup, where we have additional discounts we can set up in the system. Here we have discounts that can be applied to an invoice via the discount drop-down menu in the invoice. These will be applied to the entire invoice when added. We have dollar and percentage amounts here, so you can actually enter not only percentage discounts, but also coupon discounts to be applied as well. Then we have additional options for boarding, daycare, grooming, pet sitting, and training to enter discounts based on how many visits the customer has had at your facility. And specifically for boarding, we have long-term discounts where you can set up a multi-tiered discount system for prolonged boarding stays. So after a certain number of days, you can have a dollar amount or a percentage amount discounted for the customer, for the pet. We then have a loyalty program, and this runs on this is the same type of program you'd have on a frequent flyer miles program or credit card points. Basically, you're allowed to set up your own ratio here. You enter how many points the customer receives per dollar, how many points are redeemed for the monetary amount you enter in there. And then you can set different levels as well if you want to give additional discount, additional amount of points to customers for showing up. These points are only applied upon payment of invoice, and they can be applied to a customer's invoice on the invoice itself. Once this is all set up, you'll be prepared to create your bookings in the system, schedule your pets, check them in and out, and for that we're going to go to the Schedule tab. I'm going to skip the Calendar section and go right over to Schedules. You'll see we have an enlarged icon for each schedule in the system, the same ones that we have up here under our Quick Access bar. And next to that we have Create Appointments icons, specifically for creating quick appointments on the schedules. And next to that, in the Process section, we have our Check-in and Checkout. If you're using online reservations, you'll be accessing your online reservation manager screen from there. Schedules can be opened by clicking on either these icons or the icons in the Quick Access bar. As you can see, the schedules all look fairly similar. All the schedules work off the same system. They all have different color codings, but they all have a similar grid format. Once you learn how to use one schedule, the others become easy to manage and keep track of. You can create, we do have a training video on YouTube specifically on creating and managing appointments. It's a half-hour to 45-minute video that goes into great detail specifically on how to create appointments and keep track of them in the system. But just as a basic overview, you can create appointments in the system by clicking on the Add button on the schedule, clicking on one of the Add icons here. We can also open the pet card and create bookings from the module tabs on the pet card. So I can create a booking for boarding for this pet just by clicking this Add button here. One of the most popular ways to do it is from the client view, where you can select either the pet or the pet name, the pet or the customer, and drag them into the schedule. If we drag the customer over and they just have one pet, it's going to automatically create a booking for that pet. See, the pet's name and information is already in here. The same thing can be accomplished by dragging a single pet into the schedule. If a customer has more than one pet and we drag the customer name into the schedule, we receive a multiple pet option, and this will allow us to create bookings for multiple pets at once. Each module features color coding to help keep easy track of what is happening on the schedule. Checking a pet in, marking pets as canceled, or undoing them, checking pets out, Color coding will always give you an idea of where the pet is and what action is going to be taking place next. When checking pets in or out, you can set up the system to automatically prompt you to create an invoice. Invoice will be created for the booking. In this case, the invoice only has the feeding because this pet has a package that has been deducted from the daycare package upon checkout. In the invoice screen here, we can see our loyalty point screen, and we have a specific training video on invoices and receipts. It's about a half hour to 45 minutes specifically on creating invoices, creating receipts, taking payments, keeping track of items like that in the system. I highly recommend that training video. When you're in a schedule, and we're just going to create a quick booking here in boarding. Again, notice the color coding telling us that we have a one-day stay in the boarding schedule. On each schedule, you have the option to right-click on a booking as well. And we have a number of options, different things that can be done from the schedule itself. Everything from adding, modifying, or deleting appointments, accessing customer information, pet information, services that have been scheduled, checking the pet in and out, creating invoices, contact information, etc. Now these are the main schedules that you can use to track individual modules, boarding, daycare, all of these. There are other schedules in the system you can use to access this information, and those will be found under the calendar section. First, specifically for boarding, I want to point out the run glance and month glance. These both give you a snapshot of how much room is available at your facility. These occupancies here, as you can see under the month glance, are simply going to be indicated by an X on the run under the date that they're occurring. For the run glance, we're going to get a week view, and it's going to be a bit more detailed. We're going to see the names of pets and color coding showing if they're coming, if they're going, if they've been checked in or out, etc. The run glance can also be accessed directly from the board booking when you're creating an appointment in boarding if you want to take a look and see what your occupancy availability is. With occupants, we also have the vacancy schedule. This gives you a snapshot of your total vacancies, occupancies in the system for your individual run sizes, total amount of pets boarded, how many are leaving, how many are staying overnight, your total vacancies, and daycare and grooming as well. And then special services if you have that module. For actual calendars in the calendar section, we can start off with the monthly view. The monthly view is going to give you a monthly grid. Numbers at the top of each day will give you your occupancy totals based on the legend here next to the month name. There's a tab for each module in the program. Selecting the month will give a list of the pets' names. You cannot access the actual bookings from the monthly calendar, but we can open up the pet from here. We can also set up holiday, peak season, vacation times, or other schedule needs on the calendar screen. Settings such as peak season and holiday are also affected by the special rates tab in the list section, where you can set up surcharges for your busier parts of the week or month or year. Shrinking down from the full day view, we have our weekly schedule. The weekly schedule is broken down into a weekly grid based by hours. This is most useful for grooming, pet sitting, and training. As you can see, we do not have this offered for boarding, as boarding is more long-term. Bookings can be created from the screen by selecting the time and dragging and dropping the pet or customer into the schedule. Once bookings are created here, they can be tracked. You can track it by master list for all groomers, or you can choose specific groomers from the drop-down. Bookings can be accessed from this calendar as well if you need to make any modifications. And while we do not have the option to drag and drop bookings from day to day on the schedule, we do have the ability to tweak the times by dragging and dropping the top or the bottom. So you can micromanage your times for grooming or training, etc. in this schedule. In choosing your individual groomers or pet sitters, you can also block out specific times, so when checking the schedule you can tell when a employee is unavailable. Then we have the full day view, and the full day view will display any modules you currently have. For boarding, we have arrivals and departures occurring on the specific day. Then we have your daycare, grooming, pet sitting, training, and special services bookings. You cannot create bookings on the schedule, but you can access bookings that already exist to check for details or modify. And you also have some right-click options on the full day view as well. Some customers like to use this to get a snapshot of what's happening during the day and then go to the more detailed schedules when they need further information. Finally, squeezed in between schedules and calendars, we have the wait list. This is a separate schedule that you can use to create bookings in the system without putting them on the actual schedule. Then these pre-created bookings can be dropped into the schedule when room occurs or availability opens. And again, the training video on creating and managing appointments on the Kennel Connection YouTube channel goes into greater detail on how to do all of this and track it. The next tab we have on our list here is the accounting tab. Here's where we're going to access all of our money options. At the far right, we have the time clock I mentioned before. Employees will click the time clock, enter their name as they're checking in or out. If you have login IDs and passwords set up in the system, they will have to enter their password in as well. They click punch, and then their time is recorded in the system. Next to that, we have the credit card management option. If you are processing your credit cards through Kennel Connection, you'll be able to enter your management screen from here. To the far left, we have our invoices section. From here, we have our create invoice money bag icon, the same one that's up here in the quick access bar. We can also create all invoices in the system right from here. And if we have a cash drawer attached to the computer that we're currently on, we can open the cash drawer from here. Then under accounting is where we're going to access our invoices and receipts. Now, one thing you'll notice on the invoices screen when I open it is that we have a display receipts button at the bottom, and we can use that to jump back and forth quickly between invoices and receipts. Invoices and receipts can be accessed here, modified, deleted, researched, searched for. Invoices and receipts can also be found on individual customer cards under the Financial tab. You can also access invoices and receipts from here and make modifications if need be. The only thing you cannot do from the customer card is actually delete an invoice or receipt. That must be done from the accounting section. And then if you're going to use gift cards or gift certificates in Kennel Connection, those can be created here as well. Once again, we do have a training video specifically on invoices and receipts. It's about a half hour to 45 minutes long. It goes into greater detail on invoicing, receipts, how they access and work in the program. I highly recommend that for more detailed information on how that information works in the system. Next, we have the Reports tab. When we click on the Reports tab, we'll notice that to the right we have some frequent reports available. At the far end is our miscellaneous frequent reports. These are common reports that are used often, so we've added a little quick access area here. Depending on which module you'll have, certain reports will be showing or will not be showing. If you do not have the pet sitting module, you will not be seeing the pet sitting options. And then we have frequent report access for specific modules, grooming, daycare, and boarding. But all your reports are going to be accessible from the reports section to the far left. Now we have a specific training video solely for going through the reports and explaining what all the reports do in Kennel Connection. There are a lot of reports in Kennel Connection. We try to make it possible to access as much information as possible in as wide a variety of ways as possible. So for each module, we have individual reports for a number of features. We also have a whole list of revenue reports for tracking income, as well as general lists for information. For further details on all of the reports available in Kennel Connection, I highly recommend the training video on reports that can be found on the Kennel Connection YouTube channel. Next on that reports tab, we're going to find utilities. Here are some basic maintenance utilities that you can find in Kennel Connection. Some of these you'll never touch. Some of these you may have to use occasionally. One of the most important ones is the Audit Trail. This allows you to keep track of transactions that take place in Kennel Connection. When using login IDs and passwords, the Audit Trail will track which employee has been working, what they're doing while they're logged into the system, and when it occurs. This is a vital part of the Kennel Connection program. If you have a large number of employees, being able to track down who's doing what in the system, it's not only good for tracking down errors in the program, it's also good at preventing any lost revenue through that means. So I highly recommend using the login ID features with Kennel Connection so you can fully utilize the Audit Trail. We have a client merge utility, so if you have two clients in the system, you want to merge them together, you can select them both here and merge the information. Details at the top explain how that works. We have an undelete client utility, so if you've deleted any clients recently, you can undelete them from the deleted section. You can also delete old data. We have a number of options here. If your database is growing large, you can access certain boarding data, scheduled data, inactive clients, and you can wipe them from the database to free up some memory space. We have an export feature here for exporting your basic information, client lists, email lists, and you can break that down by pet service or by active or inactive client. We have the fill NRA option. If your NRAs are set up in the system, you can use this to fill NRAs. NRA stands for no runs available, and it's a system that's used for facilities that have like to overbook to maximize occupancies and have some kind of temporary holding setting where pets can stay until a run becomes available. If our technical department asks you to access a patch, you can use the Get System Patch button here, and they'll give you the file name to apply. We have a mass text utility if you want to text multiple customers at once. The no-show processor is used for processing no-shows, obviously. What that does, it will process any customers who have not shown up for scheduled appointments. It will mark them in red on the client view. And in the case of boarding, if the pets have not been checked out and the customers are no-shows, it will move that boarding pet last day of their stay to the current day on the schedule. Then we have the Odbc. This is mainly used if you're having issues with printing. This controls how information is accessed in Kennel Connection via Windows. If you're experiencing issues printing, we may ask you to use the Reset DSN. You can do it manually or automatically. The QuickBooks Direct Sync is here if you're using the QuickBooks Direct link and are doing manual syncs, which I personally recommend. You'll want to go here and run your sync from here. Under that, we have release record locks. If you're using Kennel Connection on a network and have multiple computers, the release record locks allows you to unlock a record that might be marked as locked. So if somebody was accessing a client card and then for some reason, even after they get out of it, say the computer goes down, something occurs, the system is still showing that record is locked even though nobody is accessing it, simply go here and click Release Record Locks, and that will release any locks in the system. And then we have a generic send email utility here to create mass emails to send out via Kennel Connection. The View tab, which we saw briefly at the beginning of this training video, includes the ability to turn on and off the Client Explorer, and we can also, with one click, arrange how our windows are open if we have multiple windows open on the schedule. And just to give an example how that's going to look, so if you have multiple schedules open and you want a quick arrange, we can cascade them, do the tile, or just click arrange to allow us to move them wherever we want to. Finally, we have the Help tab. At the far left, you'll see the generic helps section where we have our display user manual. This allows you to access a PDF copy of the full Kennel Connection manual. Only 368 pages, some light reading for the summer. Under our generic support section here, we have Add Additional Module. If you purchase additional modules from us, the sales department will give you a code to enter in the Add Additional Module section. Also, if you're not sure what modules you currently have, the Add Additional Module section is a great place to do a quick check. Any modules that are active in your Kennel Connection program will be highlighted in red. If it's in blue, you do not have that module. At the bottom, we have Join Remote Session. If you're dealing with our technical or training support team and they need to access your computer, they'll have you join remote session using this to open up a TeamViewer program and allow them to remote in your computer. We have Make Payment here for our customers that may have a staggered payment plan when purchasing Kennel Connection. I'm skipping the BCS Product Support Center for last. We have About Kennel Connection here. The About Kennel Connection button has some basic information in here. And if you have the QuickBooks Direct Link module set up like I do, there'll be a slight delay in opening this as Kennel Connection is also accessing the QuickBooks database to gather information from that. Now, most of the stuff I'm going over in the Utilities section in here are covered under our training video on maintenance in Kennel Connection. I highly recommend that video. It goes a bit more detail on a lot of the stuff I'm mentioning here. And if you ever need to access the Product Support Center for Blue Crystal Software, the link is right here. That'll take you to the main Blue Crystal Software website. You can log in with your ID and password. You can access the latest updates, knowledge base with plenty of articles, instructional articles on how to do things, how to correct any errors that might occur, and also how to do things such as create commissions in the system. A lot of the stuff that's covered in our training videos is also covered with detailed documentation in the knowledge base. I highly recommend that. As you can see in our About Kennel Connection section, you can immediately access what your service release is and what your revision number is. If you call technical support, they may ask you to confirm that number to make sure you're on the latest version. You can always check for updates by clicking the Check for Updates box, and that will tell you whether or not you've downloaded the latest update. I'm currently fully up to date. Your basic information down here, including basic contact information for Blue Crystal Software, and a link to our main website. And under the System tab, you'll see your data path and install path, and your database type and size. Some of this information might be needed by technical support if you call, especially if you're checking on slowness issues you might be experiencing or networking issues. And also the QuickBooks version and XML version will show here as well. And that's pretty much the round-the-world tour of the Kennel Connection program. We've looked at everything from the access bar and all the icons and where to access everything in the ribbon at the top of the screen, where information is entered and where to access it. As I mentioned throughout this training video, we have numerous detailed training videos on the YouTube Kennel Connection channel detailing specific areas of Kennel Connection, specifically the employee section, the inventory section, the discount section. We even have one specifically on setting up the QuickBooks Direct Link. If without those detailed training videos, this Getting to Know Kennel Connection video would be roughly 3 to 4 hours long, going into all the details. So this is just meant more of an overview to show you, as first looking at Kennel Connection, especially for our potential customers who are just demoing the program, just downloading the demo and trying it out for themselves, just getting an idea of where everything is going to go and how you're going to access it in the program. For further information on any of this, I highly recommend going to YouTube, Kennel Connection channel, and accessing the numerous training videos that are there. You can also call the training department at Kennel Connection at 888-486-4343, extension 307. And you can email the training department at training@bluecrystalsoftware.com. I want to thank everybody who's watched this video. If you have any comments on the video, please email them to training@bluecrystalsoftware.com. We're always looking for feedback on the training videos we have available. Also, if there's a training video you're looking for that you don't see, if there's a subject that you'd like to see a small training video created for specifically, please let us know. But this has been the Kennel Connection program. Welcome to Kennel Connection 6.0. I hope you enjoy.